often think of getting our bodies summer ready, but this year it's a good time to think of ways to get our wallets in shape too. With summer around the corner, a vacation may be on your mind. School's First Federal Credit Union is here to help us surf through expenses, ride the budgeting wave, and make your money work smarter this summer. Let's welcome Travis Mara, Roseville Branch Manager for School's First Federal Credit Union. Hello, Travis.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I can't believe we're already talking about summer.
Yeah, it's crazy to think my kids are down to their final few days of school.
Yeah.
And, that means school's out, get your wallets out. So I always suggest starting with a budget. When you know how much you want to spend on your vacation overall, you can kind of pick a destination that fits within that. Because let's face it, some destinations are much more expensive than others. So once you have that total amount you're able to spend, you can now consider kind of the 4 general vacation expenses. That's travel. That's both to and from the destination, but also during your stay. You also have your lodging, you have your food, and then all those little extras on activities, entertainment, and souvenirs. But you also want to be careful of those sneaky costs. Clothing is one, for example. When you're on your vacation, maybe depending on weather, you may want or need to add to that vacation wardrobe. So just something else to consider.
Yeah, especially those souvenirs, right? When we go on vacation, we want to get those little knickknacks. Okay, so now that we've got our budgeting set, what do we need to do next?
Yeah, so once you have your general budget, you kind of know how much you are willing or able to spend. And so the next thing is to kind of to narrow down and pick that destination that fits within that. There are plenty of budget-friendly destinations where your dollars can go a lot further without really compromising the quality of that vacation experience. Try choosing a destination that has a mix of options that you pay for, but also options that you don't, and that can really stretch your budget. But before you book that destination, you really need to consider that travel. Airfare can be very expensive, and depending on where you stay, you may also need a rental car for that whole duration. This is where a lot of those travel sites and apps can become very handy. You can compare a lot of different prices and find the best deal. And also, if your travel dates are flexible, you can even get even better rates.
Yeah, you definitely want to check out for all the deals. And like you mentioned, like comparing so you can find what works for you and your budget. So next, should we start thinking about where we are going to stay, Travis?
Yes, that's correct. Depending on what you've allocated for kind of your lodging, sometimes you may have to set aside that 4-star resort and choose kind of a more affordable 3-star. And some of these 3-star resorts are hidden gems. They have a lot of charm, and they can even have locations that rival some of those 4-star resorts. The other thing to consider is if you're traveling in a large group, the short-term vacation rentals may be a better option. Depending on how long you're staying and where, the cost per day could be a lot more affordable than a hotel. But what you want to consider with that is the additional fees. There could be costs for cancellation, just regular service fees, cleaning fees, additional guest fees, and even security deposits. So just a couple things else to consider is, food, especially if you're traveling with kids, like myself.
It adds
a big expense, it does. So a lot of these all-inclusive resorts are very convenient because meals are included. But opting for other accommodations that maybe have a kitchenette in the room, that can help you really minimize costs. But if you are in a lodging area that doesn't have meals included or doesn't have a kitchen, really plan ahead and look at the local eateries because that can help make sure you stay within your budget.
Yeah, that's something that gets me every time. It's the food. You don't realize how much it adds up if you're spending it on every single meal. So planning ahead, like you mentioned. And let's say our vacation is booked. We got it ready to go. Do you have any tips for managing your vacation budget while we're out on vacation?
Yeah, exactly. We all work hard and we look forward and need those vacations. And no one wants to worry about money when you're in vacation mode. But it is very important that you are mindful in keeping track of what you are spending. Whether that's an app or even old school, just jot it down in a notebook. By monitoring your daily expenses, you can make adjustments during your trip. Maybe like you said, we're spending more on food than we thought. So maybe we need to scale back a little on the souvenirs, as we previously mentioned. Other things to do is, pack as many snacks and meals that you can. We mentioned, eating out every single meal can get very costly. So the more kind of meals you have on the go, the more you can save. And then just lastly, take advantage of free and low cost activities. There's beautiful hiking trails anywhere you go. There could be local festivals this time of year, and even just public parks. That adds a nice variety to your trip, breaks it up without having to break your bank. So the key is just do a lot of research, plan accordingly, and that'll allow you to make some informed decisions that are in alignment with your kind of budget that you've set without having to compromise the quality of the trip.
And that way we're not surprised at the very end too, right? When we're like, oh crap, how much did we really spend? And talk to the locals, because the locals know about a lot of cool spaces.
The hidden gems.
The hidden gems, and sometimes they're not overpriced, so it's a win-win.
Sure.
Travis, thank you so much for these tips.
My pleasure, thank you.
Alrighty, you bet. Okay, you can visit one of the many Schools First Federal Credit Union branch locations as seen on the screen, and you can find out more online by going to schoolsfirstfcu.org.